So, all right, so let's take a look at our revenue per available room. In this case, let me do blue so it stands out. We had what, 13,750 divided by 200 rooms. And what did we get? 68.75. Okay, so we're dollars and cents. We're not going to round up to $6.80. It's always dollars and cents. Okay, so if it's dollars and cents, it's 68.75. So what I'd like you to do right now is I would like you to complete number 2. Okay, if you already did, great, keep going. But I would like you to complete number 2 and compare your answers to your neighbor. You can work together if you would like to, or you can work independently and then compare your answers. Okay. I'll be walking around, so if you need help, please let me know. Okay, so I'm just going to come by and double check. Just make sure you have your page open to number 2. Yep, that's okay. Let's come back to that because I think you're on the right track. Okay, so we add up all of these. So let's do our add, and then we're going to add up all the room numbers and put them right there. Good job. Wait, hold on, let's see. 78? Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, that's fine. Yep. Yep. Okay, so the revenue per available room. Oh yeah, cross off the word net. So it'd just be the rooms revenue for the period by the total rooms available.
So total rooms available.
Yep, so let's go back here. Exactly, yep. Well, 2,000 rooms that we have available, and this was our revenue that we have, right? So our ADR, we divided by the rooms that we sold, but the RevPAR is per available room. We have 2,000 rooms to sell. That by 2,000, yep. There you go.
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Is that right so far?
So far, yes.
Okay. And then
Good.
This divided, wait. Yeah, this divided by this.
Yep.
Okay.
To get that one.
Okay.
Correct. Good. Awesome.
Okay, so
Well, that one you're missing decimal places. So this one we have this is the comma is right here. So it's 18,750. So I think that's why we got so much. Because I think you have it as 187,000. So it's 18,750. Double check that one. Okay. So I'm just going to go over really quickly. The information for number 2. Okay. So when we add up all the rooms that we have total that we sold was 1,575 rooms that we sold. Okay. Our revenue came out to 1,000. Actually, let me do this. See if this might help some of you. Erase. Okay. So our revenue came out to $177,625. Okay. Our occupancy percentage. Okay. And we have 2,000 rooms total. Okay. Our occupancy percentage, the part is 1,575 rooms sold, the part divided by 2,000 rooms. Okay. And from there, we get 0.788. So I move that decimal place over, it becomes 78.8%. Okay. We good so far? I am recording this section and I am not on mute. So you can go back and watch this again if you need some reminders. You'll notice what I'm doing up here is I'm color coding everything. Okay. So that way when you go back to your notes, I used to have, and I'll see if I can find, I have like a bag that has a bunch of map colored pencils in it, and I'll bring it to class. So if you want to grab different colors and as we're doing things, color coding things, it maybe helps make that connection later on. That would be great. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go with pink for our ADR. Our average daily rate is the total that we sold, $1,760.25. Okay. And we're going to divide that by the rooms that we sold, 1,575 rooms. Okay. And so our ADR comes out to $112.78. Okay. And lastly, let's do orange. Okay. So revenue per available room, RevPAR. We use that same dollar amount, $177,625. And instead of dividing by the 1,575, we divide by the 2,000 rooms. Okay. And that gives us a RevPAR of $88.82. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns about this? Yes. Okay, so 8.75, we're going to run it up to 78.8, right? That 5 will run it up to 8. I think, let me double check your quiz in Canvas. Let me stop share. Oh, sorry. To the nearest 1 decimal place. To the nearest 1 decimal place. Okay, so that'd be 78.8, yeah. What confuses you? Okay, so this is the way that makes it a lot easier for you to get instant feedback on whether you have the correct answer or not. Okay, so if you notice on the 3rd page of your homework assignment, this is your homework assignment. Okay, there's a chart on the bottom, 1 through 5, and it has occupancy, ADR, RevPAR, and room revenue. If you want to fill that chart out, it's going to make it a lot easier to do your homework. Question 1, the occupancy percentage. So if we go to number 1, what was our occupancy percentage for question number 1? 75%. You type in 75%, right? So that's my occupancy. So you're going to fill this out based on the numbers that you have on this worksheet here. Okay. So that's why if you want to fill out that chart on the bottom, then you can just go straight across and answer as you go. Okay. So that's one thing that I provided. You don't have to use the chart if you don't want to. Okay. But let me check something really quickly. Yeah. So for the example of this one, question number 2, between 78 and 79. So if you answered 78.8, it will count it correct. If you round it up to 79, it'll still count it correct, even though it's technically not, because we're not rounding up to the nearest whole dollar or whole percentage, okay? So to the nearest occupancy percentage is always 1 decimal place, and ADR and RevPAR are dollars, so it's always 2 decimal places, okay? In this case, if you look at question number 2, it was the revenue per available room was $88.82. So if you answer anywhere between $87.50 and $89.50, Canvas will count it correctly for you, okay? That way, if there is an issue, if you're off by a penny, I don't want Canvas to give you the wrong answer if you're just off by a penny, okay? Because that can be very discouraging, right? I mean, if you're got everything, I mean, now granted, out in the real world, you want to be to the penny on the nose, right? But while you're learning this, if you're off by 1 penny, I don't want your confidence in your math to be shattered because of 1 penny. Okay. So I'm going to give you that margin of error to make a little bit of a mistake. Okay. Especially when it comes to rounding. And the larger the numbers we have, the larger the impact of that rounding is going to take place. Okay. So what we've done question 1 and question 2. So you have 3 more questions to work out. Okay. Let me give you a little heads up for number 4 and number 5. Okay. Number 4 and number 5. Oh, I just realized my video is on. That is a horrible angle. Number 4 and number 5. We have 450 rooms in the hotel, correct? Okay. Our RevPAR, revenue per available room, we cannot use 450. Why? There's 7 days in the week, right? So on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, those were the days, that's how many we sold out of that 450 for each day. So 450 times 7, 3,150. We all agree? Okay, so that is what we're going to use for our revenue per available rooms. Yes. We didn't because it was just 1 day. Yeah. So in this case, we're looking at our occupancy percentage and our revenue per available room. This is the total rooms that are in that period of time. Okay. If we were looking at January, what would we multiply it by? 31. Okay. If you don't know the rule, anybody not know the knuckle rule about months? January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, November, December, your knuckles, 31 days. The valleys in between your knuckles are the 30 days or less. Did y'all not know that? Oh my gosh, y'all learned something new today. Everyone, let's do it all together, right? You gotta look at your knuckles. You gotta go with your knuckles and then the little valleys in between your knuckles. So January, February, March is your second knuckle, April, May, June, July, double tap, August, November, come backwards, or August, September, October, November, December. Your knuckles are 31 days. The valleys in between are 30 days, except for February, which is always 28 or 29. There you go. So if you're thinking you're just like January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Okay, there you go, 31 days. All right, sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent. Let's continue with chapter 2, okay? Some of this will be duplicate information from the pre-class videos, so hopefully you have watched those. If you haven't, then that's okay. You can continue watching them at a later time. But we are going to be looking at these internal metrics within our own data, okay? Within our own data. We're not going to compare it to our competitors yet, okay? So 3 areas that we can get this data from are historical figures. So what did we do in the past? What was our ADR? What was our occupancy in the past? Okay, for that same period. What did we budget? So if we said that we wanted our ADR to be 150 and our budget right now, our ADR is sitting at 140, are we making our budget? Not yet, okay? We can also look at the industry averages. So the hotel and lodging in San Antonio Hotel Lodging Association, typically once or twice a year, they will bring in someone to do an industry standards, and they'll talk about the city of San Antonio, and they'll talk about the upper mid scales. They're averaging X number of dollars for their ADR. And then that way we can kind of determine. We cannot, as a hotel association, get together and say, okay, everybody, we're going to charge $150 for our rooms. Okay, that's price fixing. That's against the law. We cannot do that. Okay, it's illegal to do that. You can't ever get together as a group of industry professionals and discuss pricing. If you ever find yourself in a situation that you're talking like, oh, what are you charging? I mean, it's not like, people do that all the time. They'll be like, well, what is your ADR? Right? Just kind of informally asking to kind of compare themselves to you. But you can't all say, okay, we're going to leave this room and we're all going to go charge $200. You can't do that. That's price fixing and that is illegal. Okay. So historical figures. We want to look at things from, excuse me, from the past. Okay. If we look at this ADR of $115, I wonder if it's good. I don't know if it's good or not. Okay. If I look at my historical information and my historical ADRs were 120 and 124, then my ADR is not good. In the past, if my ADR was higher, then that 115 is not a good thing, okay? If they were lower than that, then that means I'm in a good spot. So we can look historically, what was I at in order to see, is that dollar amount, is that ADR good or bad? Okay. And again, this is all internal. This is all within. I have access to all this data. Okay. If we look at that 115, is it good or not? Something we can look at is, what did we budget it to be? Did we budget our ADR to be 110? If so, we're in good shape. If we budgeted that our ADR would be 125, we're not in good shape yet. Okay. The beautiful thing is, if it's not the end of the year, we still have time to make up for it. Right? I mean, if we say, okay, we wanted to average 125, we're at 115, we got $10 to close that gap. What can we do? What's coming up for the rest of the year that we can maybe increase our ADR, maybe try to get a little bit more. Sorry about that. Yes. So Raven made a really good point. Maybe Nyosa's coming up. Maybe Fiesta's coming up. And maybe during Fiesta, our ADR is going to jump to 220, which is going to help us get up to our average. What our goal is of 125, right? So as a revenue manager, you're always looking at what's happened so far versus what else is coming up in the future, okay? And then lastly, we can look at industry averages, okay? We can look at industry averages, what's called our comp set. Comp is short, not for free. Competitive, okay? Competitive. Our comp set is our competitors. Who are we competing against for the same guest? Okay. Yeah, so the Marriott downtown is competing with the Hilton. Okay. They're also competing with the Hyatt. There are 3 large hotels that are all right next to the walking distance of the convention center. Okay. So they would be a competitor set based on the amenities and the geographic location. Okay. The Hilton Palacio, I think, only has like 300 some rooms. So as far as size, they're not the same comps. They are in the same concept, but they're not in the same concept as far as size, right? The Marriott and the Hyatt have 1,000 rooms each, okay? The Hilton Palacio Del Rio only has let's say it has 300, okay? I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but that is where revenue per available room comes into play. And we'll see that in just a little bit, okay? Yeah, so the Canopy is gonna be a luxury boutique hotel. Oops. So yeah, so the Canopy Hotel is a luxury boutique hotel, okay? So it's probably gonna be the same comp set as maybe like the Hotel Valencia, okay? Because they're both in the Riverwalk and they're both luxury boutique hotels. It might be in the Omni, maybe not so much as far as the level of service. I feel like Canopy, and not to belittle the Canopy Hotel, but the Canopy, the Omni level of service is a little bit elevated. It might be, the Canopy might be in line with the Omni. The Makara Hotel, though, which is also part of the Omni brand, the Makara Hotel might be more a comp set of Hotel Valencia and Hotel Emma. It's much more boutique. I want to say only has like 75 or 100. The Makara, the St. Anthony was in the same comps, maybe the Gunther Hotel or Emily Morgan Hotel, because they're all historic hotels, right? So the amenities, the level of service, the size, and the geographic locations ways that we can identify who our comp set is. Okay. I have seen the San Antonio before. It's beautiful. Now here's another thing we have San Antonio. We have resorts. Okay. So JW Marriott is way up here. Then we have La Cantera. This is downtown. Okay. Downtown's over here. JW Marriott over by Six Flags. And then you have Hyatt Hill Country, which is out by SeaWorld. Okay. On a map of San Antonio, actually, let's pull up a map of San Antonio. Okay, so let's take a look right here at the map of San Antonio. Okay. So let's get a color that we can easily see. Let's go with black. Okay. So JW Marriott is up here. 1604 and I-10 is La Cantera. And then this is 151. So this is going to be the Hyatt. Okay. they are all pretty far spread out, right? They're not right next to each other like the Marriott and the Hyatt are downtown. But when we think about level of service and the amenities, these are all resort properties. So they're all going after the same guest, okay? Now, the Hyatt Hill Country Resort is right next to the Hilton Hill Country. It's not a resort. It's also right next to the Holiday Inn. Would Holiday Inn and the Hyatt Resort be in the same comp set? Yeah. What are they both nearby? SeaWorld, San Antonio. So the same guests that are going to SeaWorld are going to be looking at the hotels in that area. So even though it's a resort and the Holiday Inn is a full service, doesn't necessarily mean that they're not in the same comp set, because they're going to go after the same guests that are looking for maybe potentially at SeaWorld. Okay. So your comp set is going to evolve. It's going to change as new hotels get built. But at the same time, once your comp set is established, usually it's pretty set. Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. So again, you're going after you're trying to figure out which guests you're trying to go after. And that does make a huge difference. Okay. So our contribution margin, we kind of already went over this a little bit by default. What is the root word of contribution? Oops, contribute. Okay. Contribute. So the way that I think about contribution margin, let me take that away. There we go. The way I think about contribution margin is with that root word of contribute. So it contributes to the profit. Okay. The contribution margin is what we contribute to the profit. This word net is in parentheses, right? That means that rather than trying to write two different formulas, they just write one formula, and one is the room rate and the other one is the net room rate. Okay, so I'm just going to take off that net because we're not going to worry about it. So if my room rate is $100 and my variable cost, okay, the variable cost is, what does it cost me? The difference between whether I sell that room or I don't sell that room. If I don't sell this guest room, I don't have to clean it. I don't have to replace the soap and shampoo. I don't have to wash the linens, right? I don't have to vacuum. I don't have to pay somebody to do all of that. So I'm saving all of those costs if I don't sell that guest room. I can't tell you how many times as a front desk agent at La Quinta, somebody comes in and asks me what my rate is. I tell them my rate is $109 for tonight. And they're like, I'll give you $79. That's not how this works. This is not a barter system. Okay. And they're like, oh, well, you know, if you don't sell it, then you're not going to get any money. So why wouldn't you want $79? Well, if it costs me $25 to clean that room in labor and expenses to replace everything, then no, I'm not going to get $79. Now I'm only going to get 50 something. And is all of that worth me only getting $50 for somebody that's going to continuously come in and try to get me down to the lowest price? No. So unfortunately, this is my rate. This is what's available. This is what I can give you. But what I can ask you is, do you qualify for any discounts? Do you have AAA? Do you have AARP? Are you military? Okay. At that point, as a front desk agent, I'm starting to give you ideas of different discounts you might qualify for if they're available during that time. Okay. So yes, what I call my best available rate, my bar, my best available rate is $100. Okay. And they balk at $100. well then, okay, unfortunately, that's all I can do. But I can also then ask you, do you qualify for any discounts? We accept AAA, we accept, Diners Club, whatever discounts we offer, we might be able to do that. Okay. Okay. Medical rates. Cool. Possibly AARP senior discounts. Absolutely. Okay. So, and that's a good point when you say some don't. Some may not do it because we've closed rates out. And we're going to talk about that as a revenue manager. Sometimes we're going to close those rates because we don't want to sell somebody at a lower rate when we know Fiesta's coming up and we know we can get $200 for that room. Okay. So our variable costs are all those costs associated to cleaning that room and getting it ready. Okay. So let's say it's $25. Then that means my contribution margin is $75. Okay. My contribution margin is $75. Now, let's pretend I sell this on Expedia. And Expedia is a 30% commission. Okay. So I have $100. So $100. It cost me $25 to clean that room. Cost me $30 to sell it on Expedia. So now I'm up to $55. I'm only going to get net or contribution margin $45 for that room. That is why it is crucial that we retrain our guests to book direct with us. We retrain them because we know that really affects the bottom line. I thought it was so interesting during the pandemic when Grubhub and what's the other one? DoorDash, right? All of those food delivery apps became very popular during the pandemic. And about 2-3 months in, there's this big article in the San Antonio Revard report. Oh my gosh, these apps are killing all of these local these local mom and pop restaurants. They can't keep up with the fees. And I'm like, hello, hotels have been doing it for years, And so when it doesn't affect you, you don't think about it. But now all of a sudden, oh my gosh, these horrible DoorDashes, they're these horrible apps. They're stealing money from the companies. Well, not necessarily stealing money from the company, because at the same time, though, it's a little bit of a necessary evil. People are so accustomed to going to Orbitz, to Travelocity, to Expedia, to book their hotel rooms, that you almost have to be on there, but only to a certain point. Okay. Okay. Yep, that's true, because you're not thinking about it from the perspective of the hotelier, right? Yep. Yes. Yep. And it also sometimes it is helpful to go to the third party sites, because if you are not particular about a brand, it's going to give you all the brands together all at once. So then you can take that information and then go directly to the website of that hotel in order to make your reservations, so that way you can compare. If you don't want to, like if I'm only looking at Hilton.com, I'm only going to see Hilton hotels, right? And so I might go to a third party to see what's available in a particular area, and then be able to make my selection and then go directly to the hotel. Okay. in order to do that. Donna, yes. Cancellation fees, things like that. Yep. Yeah, there are benefits of going directly to the hotel. And I'm also going to say, I'm not going to say this is the general practice of hotels, but if we are oversold, if we have over 100% occupancy, probably the first people we're looking at to walk to a different hotel is going to be our OTAs. If I look and I see Expedia rates, those are the first people that I'm going to start calling and saying, okay, I'm going to call the Canopy and say, hey, do you have any extra rooms? Because I'm going to have to walk some people. And as soon as they come to check in, I'm going to say, unfortunately, I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith. We are oversold tonight, but we already have you set up with an accommodation over at this hotel. The reservation is ready for you. You know, you might arrange for transportation, like pay for an Uber, pay for a cab if it's not within walking distance, if it's not right next door. The potential that you lose out on is that you potentially lose a lifetime guest, right? And so, but if we're thinking about it from the perspective of how the reservation is made, we're not going to walk a Hilton Honors member because they're already part of our loyalty group, right? And we're definitely not going to walk the highest tier of our membership level, right? But we're always going to be looking at how they made the reservations to make that consideration of who we're going to walk. Now, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, it'll show Expedia rates. Yeah, it shows Expedia, Orbitz, it shows all of that, how they made their reservation. And the reason why I learned that is because you never, ever, 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 ever say the rate that's on the screen. Because the rate that's on the screen says $87. And they may have paid Orbitz 120, right? And so I'm like, oh, I see we have your rate of 87. They're like, no, I paid 120, but I want 87. You know, and then I'm like, oh no, just kidding. That's what Orbitz is paying us. So sorry, you know. But the guest is like, well, I want to pay 87. Okay, well, the next time come through us. You know, so there's different things. Kevin, did you have a comment?
But they also add that cost to it. So I think $12 for a package. And I'm perfectly
yeah. Yeah. Whenever, yeah, exactly. Whenever we walk somebody to a different property, I think that's in chapter 6 when we talk about walking. It doesn't mean we're literally physically walking them to another hotel. It means that we are walking them away from our property into a different hotel. We're going to send them to a different hotel. Oftentimes, it's just for one. It may just be for one night. If the reservation is 2 or 3 nights, we may send them for one night and then bring them back to our hotel. And so when we walk them, it needs to be at either the same level service or the amenities need to make up the difference for that. Okay. Yep.
Blocking means that you are blocking the room for that particular purpose.
Yep.
And that's a problem. Sometimes if you don't reserve it ahead of time, you lose out.
Yes. Yep. There is always a cutoff date. I don't recall the chapter we'll talk about blocking, but yes, that room block is important. Okay.
And they do these rooms and they block the room, they block them. And if you don't reserve it, at the gas price, then they can.
Yep, there is a contract that's signed and it has to be honored. Absolutely. All right, so let's take a look at, this is something else that we're not gonna get to chapter 3 today because I don't want to rush into chapter 3 because that's a lot of information. But we are gonna go over chapter 3 next week for sure, okay? On Tuesday next week. So this is one thing why I love math and I love numbers, okay? Because it can help you determine and make decisions on what you're going to do, okay? This is a concept called identical net revenue, okay? Remember, net revenue is what we get after we've taken out all of our costs and our expenses, right? And so sometimes we might look and see, do we want to increase our rate? Do we want to decrease our rate? Maybe we're not getting as many reservations as we thought we were going to get. Okay, maybe we're not getting as many reservations as we thought we were going to get. Maybe our occupancy isn't high enough. So I'm going to consider dropping my rate a little bit. Maybe I'm overpriced and people are just bypassing me. Okay, and so I might drop my rate a little bit, but this formula is going to tell me what is the amount of occupancy I have to maintain to keep the identical net revenue, which means I'm not going to lose any more money. If I didn't change anything, let's say this, right? Let's say I'm at 60% occupancy, okay? And my revenue right now, my net revenue is $100,000, okay? I want to know what happens if I drop my rate, but still keep that $100,000. Or what happens if I raise my rate? What occupancy do I have to get to in order to keep that same $100,000 without losing any money, okay? And then I'd look at that and I decide, is that achievable? Is it not achievable? Do I make the decision to change or do I keep it the same, okay? So let's do this. Let's take a 5-minute break. Get up, stretch, go to the bathroom, get a snack, get something to drink. And then we're gonna come back, we'll talk about identical net revenue, and then we'll finish up at that point.